My name's Mike Sayer. I'm a teacher trainer, and writer. Um, as James was telling you, I've written quite a few books, particularly teachers' books. That's my speciality. Books you may have heard of, like Headway, Straightforward Life, Navigate, Outcomes. Okay, the title of my talk is Helping Students to Guess the Meaning of Words in Context. When we're teaching our students, we often get them to read a text, and it's full of words they don't know. So what do we do about that? Okay, I'm going to start with a true or false task, very sort of CELTA-y thing to do, a true or false task. Uh, okay, hooray, a true or false task. Okay, so if you look at these four sentences, the first one says, the reading text we set for our students should have new words in them. The second one says, students can work out the meaning of a word by looking closely at it and how it is used in a text. Third one says, the main aim of a guessing in words context task is to make sure students know what all the words mean. And the fourth one says, generally speaking, students already have all the skills they need to guess words in context. So I wonder whether you think those sentences are true or false. I'll give you just a few seconds to read through and think what you think. Okay, that's enough time. The reading text we set for our students should have new words in them. Yes, the answer is true. When we're teaching English as a foreign language, when we're teaching ESOL, reading text should be slightly above the level of our students. They should be slightly demanding, because that's a great way of building the students' vocabulary. They're passive vocabularies. They're kind of learning new words, recognizing new words. Students can work out the meaning of a word by looking closely at how it's used in a text. Yes, it is essential as a part of reading to be able to read a text and to kind of work out what a word means. Number three, the main aim of a guessing words in context task is to make sure students know what all the words mean. And I've written down false there. Often, when you use an English language course book, they get students to match words to definitions, which is kind of teaching the word. Teachers often spend a lot of time explaining words that are in a text. And students, of course, get their dictionaries out and look up these words. I'm going to say that none of this is necessary. When you're doing reading a text and guessing words in context exercise, what you're really doing is developing the skill to be able to guess words. It's not really that important that you actually know exactly what the word means. What's important is that you're able to read round words. And that's what my talk today is going to be about, is our students, number four I put as false. Our students don't have the skills to be able to read round words in a text, to be able to make educated guesses about words in a text, which allow them to be able to read text with difficult words without worrying too much about them. So that's what my talk is about today, is how we can train students to guess words better when they read. Okay, so one task type that you can use with students to build awareness of how to guess meaning and context is to use sentences or text which have nonsense words in them. When students read something with a nonsense word, they can't look a word up. They can't cheat, basically. They can't ignore the skill that you're trying to develop, which is how to actually guess the meaning of a word. So look at these sentences, read through the sentences just for a moment yourself, and think, what is the nonsense word in each sentence? Okay, so the answer is sprot. That's my made-up nonsense word. And it's quite a nice word, isn't it? Sprot. But in order to actually understand what sprot means, we can't do any cheating. We can't look in a dictionary. We can't ask our mate. We have to actually look at the whole sentence. We have to explore the word within the context of the sentence. And on the right hand of your screen, I hope, you can see some questions that we could ask our students to be able to work out what sprot means, what sprot might mean in these sentences. So if I was teaching a group of students, I might give them a series of sentences, more than 3 actually, probably about 10 sentences with the word sprot in, and I'd write these words, these questions on the board, and get my students to effectively ask these questions to analyze the word sprot. So the first question, what part of speech is each word? From the context of a sentence, you can work out whether a word is an adjective or a noun or a verb. So if you look at number 1, sprot it's an adjective. In number 2, well, here it's a participle as part of the past continuous tense. So it's the participle of a verb. And in 3, the word sprotting is an adjective again, here an ing adjective. So actually being able to recognize the part of speech in a text is important. Getting students to notice what part of speech words are in a text when they come across new words is important, because it gives you half a clue as to what the word could mean and how the word is being used. Look at the other questions. Does the word collocate with other words? In other words, what words does it go with? What words that you know in the sentence it goes with? So for example, in the first sentence, you can look, sprot. Sprot goes with look. So it's obviously an adjective that describes somebody's appearance or personality in some way. Does the context show whether the word is positive or negative? In that first sentence, again, you've got the word, I'm glad you're looking, Sprot. I've never seen you so full of joy. These words are telling you that this word is probably a positive word. It actually gives you that information. Are there synonyms or antonyms that might help? Well, again, if you look at the first sentence, the adjective sprot is defined by full of joy. Okay. The next question is, does your general knowledge help you work out the word? Well, in that first sentence, not really. There's no general knowledge that helps you. But if you look at the third sentence with the word torn curtain, which is the name of a film, well, if you know the name, if you know that film, that general knowledge could help you to understand what sprotting might mean. My next question is, do surrounding words describe or define the word? And if you look at sentence 1, I think that there's the words around it help quite a lot in defining that word. Okay, so if you were to actually apply all those questions, all those words, what would you find out? Well, in number 1, you would find out that sprot is defined and described by the sentence. It has a synonym, full of joy. It's a positive word. So we kind of know that sprot means something like happy. There's enough information there to actually be able to make a pretty good guess about what that word means. If you look at the second sentence, the children were sprotting in the playground. Well, here there are quite important surrounding words which really help you. We know from the part of speech word sprotting that it's an activity. So it's a word that describes an activity. We know from children and playground that it's something that children do. It's something that they do in a playground. So that really narrows down the meaning. But here, it doesn't tell you exactly what it means. There's not enough context to tell you exactly. It could mean jumping, it could mean playing, it could mean hopping. But equally, it could mean something completely different, like crying. But the point that I'm making is that by asking these questions, we find out enough about those words to be able to read round it. We don't know exactly what sprotting means, but we've got a fair idea and we can read on as we're reading our text. Okay. In the third sentence, I think there's plenty of context. Sprotting is you know, something that keeps you on the edge of the seat. It's probably a word like exciting. Okay, so to summarize that page, we ask lots of questions and get students to really analyze and think about words, not in order to know what the word means, but to develop the skill of being able to understand enough of the word to read past it. And I think students need to be trained to do that, because course books don't do it. And quite often teachers just teach the words in a text rather than getting students to grapple with those words. Right, my next page. A text is even better than sentences, because what that does is it provides more context. Because there are more sentences, there's more information that helps you with the word. So if you look at my picture, my kind of free reading question would be, what is the picture of, what is it a picture of? And it's actually, I can't ask you because there's too many people there, but it's, what do you think? It's a fish, right? It's a puffer fish or a blowfish. And in fact, in Japan, it's called a fugu. So you might already know what it is. You might know what this text is about. You might have that general knowledge. But if you don't, my gist question will be, what's a fugu? I'll read the text. What's a fugu? Fugu is a type of fish caught off the Pacific Nongs of Japan. It's served in expensive restaurants and has to be prepared very carefully. My mother was rushed to hospital and nearly bland after eating one. The fugu you see is Bepali gapinus. So I'm assuming that you're kind of, I don't know, pre-intermediate students. You know most of the words in this text, but there's 4 words there that you don't know. The question is there enough context here for us to actually work out the words? And again, I put the same questions on. So if you got the word nongs, it's, what part of speech is it? It's a noun, a plural noun. Does it collocate with other words? Yes, it does. It goes with the word Pacific. Yeah, so it's something that describes by the Pacific. Is it positive or negative? Well, that's not relevant here. We don't. It's not really a noun, a word that's going to be negative or positive. Any synonyms or antonyms? I don't think so. There's no other word that could possibly go here. General knowledge? Well, it could help if you know about Japan. If you know about the Pacific, you'll know that Japan is an island and you know that it's in the Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific something of Japan is describing that, yeah. Do any surrounding words describe or define the word? And the answer is yes, there's quite a lot of description there. There's no definition, but there's description. These nongs are in the Pacific. They are off Japan. It's somewhere that you catch fish. So you can work out quite a lot of that. And I think that most intermediate students would work out that nongs probably means something like shoreline or islands, or the actual word that comes in the original text, which is coasts. So although they won't be able to guess the exact word, the exact meaning, that doesn't matter. They can get enough idea there to not to be blocked by that word. Again, bland. We know for a part of speech it's something that happened. We know that it collocates with nearly, something you nearly do. And we know lots of context there. Your mother rushes to hospital after she's eaten one. It's a fish that has to be prepared carefully. So I think it's a pretty good guess to say that it probably means died or perished, or it could mean fainted, possibly. But there's certainly something serious that happened. The reason I got Bepali and Gapinus is that they're quite interesting because the two kind of explain each other. There's an adverb and an adjective, and we can tell that from the position in the sentence and from the suffixes, the li on the end of Bepali, the us on the end of Gapinus. But in order to actually be able to guess what Bepali Gapinus could mean, you probably need the context of the whole text. What on earth, how would you describe fugu from the fact that it almost killed my mother? It needs to be prepared carefully, and it's a sort of scary blowfish. Well, the answer is something like very poisonous or very dangerous, yeah, or very evil or something. Okay, so by asking those questions, we are, if you like, developing the mindset of how do we actually battle with the words to get an understanding of what they're about. Okay, right. Once you've used nonsense words to get students to develop the skill of grappling with words and guessing their meaning, we can go on to a real text. So I'm going to give you a task here, although I won't get any feedback on it, but I'll just give you sort of 20 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, to look at this text, which is about cave hotels. As you can see from my picture, it comes from a sort of upper intermediate level of students, so quite high, but intermediate. And in the text, I think there are 5, maybe 6 words that students may not know. So have a quick read of the text and decide which 5 or 6 words you would predict that the students might not know. Okay, I'm going to say time up. It's probably not enough time to actually read it, but just get the idea. If I had an upper intermediate class, I would give students a text, a short text, maybe part of a reading text that I'm going to do, and get them, once they've read it, of course, and done reading tasks on it, to say, okay, choose 5 or 6 words that you don't know, or you think other students in the class won't know, or that you think that somebody of your level might struggle with. So that they actually take responsibility for deciding which words or phrases are the difficult ones, the words that they find difficult in the text. And the 5 that I would choose are these, if you can see them. Okay, I have to read them out because my underlining ain't great. So to many people, the idea of a cave hotel sounds really primitive. I've underlined the word primitive. They might think of it as simple with very little furniture, perhaps a little cold and dark. The caves of Sassi Matera are really luxurious. And then in the next sentence, I've underlined shutters. And then I've underlined peasants in terms of local peasants. And finally, I've underlined renovated. Okay. Now, as it happens, these 5 words are C1 level words. If you look in a dictionary, if you look online, you'll find out they're C1. They're advanced level words. So you can do a bit of you can do a bit of research. Those are words that you wouldn't necessarily expect upper ints to know. But obviously, it will depend on your students. Some students might know them because they're very similar to words in their language. Some students might not know other words. For example, my 6th word would be ceilings. Ceilings is a B1 word, but it's one of those words that quite high level students kind of miss out on, don't know that word. Okay. So those are my 5 words. The students have found those words, and we want to ask our questions about them. So the same questions, except this time, because they're real words, I've added a couple of questions. So after the question, does your general knowledge help you? I've added the question, is it similar to a word in your language or to a word you already know? And the question, how does the word sound? How does the word feel? And that's because with real words, we can actually, especially once we get to a kind of intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced level, we can actually use our own feeling for the language. So a word like primitive, for example, for many Latin speakers, might have an obvious meaning because it's a cognate. It's exactly the same word in their language. But it could also be a false friend. So you've got to be careful about that kind of thing. Also, if you take a word like shutter, it comes from shut. So they know shut, so they might be able to guess shutter from the fact that it comes from another word. or they might be able to guess it from the sound of it. A shutter is something that's going to shut, it's going to bang shut, right? So the sound of a word, the feel of a word, the similarity of a word to words they know can inform students guessing. Okay. Right. Okay. Finally, I've got follow-up or extension questions. If your students really like this idea of guessing words in context, grappling with words, trying to develop the skill of being able to, if you like, make judgments, find out about words, rather than have them just explained or defined, which is what often happens, then you can give them other tasks. For example, you can ask students to look at words they don't know in a text and then find out whether the word is B1, B2, or C1. This is empowering students to teach themselves. So for example, if they find a word is a B1 level, as an intermediate level, and they're upper intermediate, then that's telling them that this is a word that they should know. So you better learn that one. Equally, if they find it's a C1 word, it might be say, well, okay, you've come across that word, you've kind of worked out what it might mean, but it's not an important, useful word for you because it's a bit too high. So getting students to actually think about which words they should be learning is useful. Which is number 2. Is it a word you need to know? Make a discuss that thing, make them think about that. Is it a word you've seen before and forgotten? Quite often when students read, they especially at higher intermediate level, they've come across words before, but they can't remember what they mean. And that's why reading is very important. Doing lots of reading helps you remember words. Number 4, is it similar to a word in your language or to a word you already know? I kind of asked that question already. How does it sound or feel? And my final question, how can you use this word again? Or do you want to use this word again? Okay. Okay, so that's it. I've run out of my time, rattled on. I think that students don't know how to guess words in context when they read text. They think that when they see words they don't know, they should learn them and they should look them up. No, they need to really think about how to read round words, how to make guesses about words, how to make decisions about which words to know. Okay, so that's my message for today. Thank you very much. And that's the end of me.